Okay, pickleball is back, at least for a little while. Uh, okay, Rutgers surprises in the opening round of the Big Ten tournament with a 72-67 win. As a 6.5 point underdog to Minnesota, defying expectations, not just for the season, but for the tournament, and beating Minnesota for the first time in 3 years with this roster. We win a Big Ten game. Go figure. And we did it through behind a second half defensive effort that turned the ball over into points to pull away in tightly contested back and forth game. And we were led again by that guy, Tariq Francis, with 29 points, 9 of 16 shooting, 5 3-pointers, and he's becoming the go-to shot maker from 3-point, and 6 for 7 from the free throw line. And this is a game, tightly, back and forth, tight game. First half, tightly contested one. Minnesota winds up taking a 31-29 lead at halftime. And the game was not just, and that was late that they pulled ahead 31-29. It was not just close in score, but in execution and production as well. Both teams were shooting well. In fact, Minnesota was shooting around 50%. Rutgers was in the mid-40s. And we were even decent from three. I think we were around 45% from three. Rebounds were even. The free throw percentages were even. But the one area where we outplayed Minnesota was in turnovers. And the turnover advantage was the only thing that we had in the first half. But in the second half, it was the defensive pressure and the turnovers that led to us eventually overtaking Minnesota and winning the game. And, in the end, that's how we won the game. In addition to hitting our free throws, we go 8 for 8 from the free throw line down the stretch to ice the game. And it's sort of like that game against Penn State where we went 9 for 9 from the field in a critical stretch. This is definitely not your older brother, Steve Pikiell's team. We are now a very solid free throw shooting team. The first half, the scoring was mostly Tariq. And yes, Ogboli, I think they accounted for like 25 of the 29 points or 23 of the 29 points. Who knew? I think Ogboli had 6 points in, so maybe it was like 22 points. 6 points and 4 rebounds in the first half, and 10 and 7 for the game. Now, if he was a regular 10 and 7 guy, or even reversed 7 points and 10 rebounds per game, that would be productive for Ogboli. But the second half was more the same, until Minnesota pulls ahead with Cade Tyson, who killed us in the first game. He went 20 for 27 points, 10 rebounds. He got 18 of his 24 points in the second half. And, in that first game where we lost 80-61 with Minnesota's starters doing all of the damage, literally and figuratively, Minnesota winds up going up 5 points in the second half before we clamp down defensively, and music to Steve Pikiell's ear. Defense clamped down, turned the ball over. I think we got 5 turnovers in a couple minutes, turned into points, and that was one area of the game where we outplayed Minnesota with points off turnovers, because everything else was even. And so we wind up going on a 17-5 run. We go up 7. J-Mike putting us up for good with a 3-pointer. He had 3 3-pointers. Bully had put an exclamation point on the run with a dunk. You just never know with basketball. And you're thinking, okay, we go 8 for 8 from the free throw line down the stretch, and Bully putting an exclamation point on things. Who is this team? Nonetheless, this is a team that's, even though we played that defense for that stretch that helped turn the game over, this, in many ways, not a Steve Peichel team. We hit our free throws at 70%, and I think Fonseca did a thing. He finally talked about something that we do well, and he said, Rutgers, this is the best Rutgers free throw shooting team since 1970, which was at 70%. I think it was actually 70.9%. And yes, I remember that Rutgers teams with Bob Wenzel, who wound up being coach on that team. He wasn't even he might have been like third leading scorer on that team. And Tariq is the best free throw shooter since Jeff Billett, 95, 96. It was exactly 90%. Cam Spence, I was surprised. He's only, I checked on this, he was like 89.5%. But at one point during the season, he was like 92.5% and top 10, and then he kind of faded down the stretch. But nonetheless, Tariq has exceeded expectations with his offensive production. And I know a lot of watchers of the program still don't like him. And, he's the shot chart. They have like a thing with the shot chart. It's sort of like using PFF grades. They show you where the shot charts come from, and they try to break it down and say, well, you're still shooting from mid-range, and that's too many mid-range shots, and yada, yada, yada. It's lazy thinking. I don't even know where to begin with that. I'm not going to rant on that tonight. Nonetheless, Tariq, does he play the kind of defense a Steve Peichel team would like to play? No. Will you take 17 points per game out of a guard that you kind of rotate in and out? It comes in off the bench. Sometimes he starts. Hell yeah. I mean, is this the perfect team? Is he the taller? Now, don't get me wrong. If we can be, like Houston, have those tall, lengthy guys that can shoot or defend, yeah, hell yeah, we'll take that. But Tariq absolutely, positively has outperformed, and good on him. So, it's on to the number 6 seed and a well-rested 21-10 UCLA team that is an 11-point favorite tonight. They beat us by 32 points back in February with all the starters in double digits, kind of like Minnesota. And Cronin says that he didn't let his team know who the opponent was going to be during practice. He didn't want to practice for the team that they were playing. He wanted to just... It's something he said he's evolved towards as he's become a more experienced coach. They're focused on preparing and not the opponent. So let's make Cronin and UCLA wished he had prepared for Rutgers and pull a Minnesota on them by our coaching staff. According to Coach Peichel, went through the film and broke it down and how they would need to approach the game against Minnesota in order to have an opportunity to win. Let's hope that same thing happens against UCLA, and our assistant coaches and coaches outcoach Cronin and UCLA and come away with a win as an 11.5-point underdog. Everybody enjoy the rest of your night. We'll see what happens against UCLA tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow.